Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on BATON Integration with NLE Systems. On the call today, we have myself, Bert Offers. I'm the sales lead here at NLE Systems. Also joining me is Keaton from our applications engineering team, and Sarah Jen, who is a product specialist here at NLE Systems. We've also got other folks on from NLE Systems who will be able to answer your questions that you have as they come up. First, just a brief overview of NLE Systems and who we are for those of you that don't know us. We were founded in the year 2000 in Cupertino, California, and we have a very large engineering and R&D centers. Actually, primarily our company is engineering focused, which results in us being able to quickly react to requirements and be in the leading edge of development. We've got leading edge technology solutions, and the company really started in content quality classification and monitoring and analytics. We've now extended that actually into the entire workflow, including delivery and over-the-top types of solutions as well. We've got quite a large customer base, including broadcasters, OTT providers, IPTV solution providers, telcos, and post-production houses as well. We employ a lot of scientists and engineers, and we do a lot of analytics with regards to machine learning and artificial intelligence that we feel we're on the leading edge, and we're incorporating those now into our product portfolio. Technology partnerships are vital, and we have technology partnerships across the whole ecosystem, and that's important to have a complete solution. And we don't just talk about it, we actually have it and working and in service with partners across the globe. Our industry-renowned customer service is 24/7, and we support all geographies at any time of the day. Just a quick look at our solutions. We go from content preparation all the way through to content delivery. On the prep side, we have a lot with our BATON portfolio, and we're going to talk about some of that here, where I mentioned earlier that we do a lot of machine learning and AI as a part of our solution as well. We've also got leading edge solutions with regards to captions and lip sync, and although those things may sound trivial, they're not trivial, and it's pretty hard to make sure that it all works, and we feel we're a leader in that area. As you go through the content delivery side, we do content delivery and do analytics for both linear systems and over-the-top systems, all the way through to video delivery to the end user device, and we can incorporate that as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Keaton.
Thanks, Bert. Hello, everyone. My name is Ketan Chaudhary. Many of you must already be familiar with BATON. I'll go through some of the basics about BATON, its usage model, and what it does. We'll talk about how BATON has been integrated with some of the popular NLE tools like Adobe Premiere Pro and Avid Media Composer. After these slides, I'll take you on a tour to some of these integrations in action. So looking at the BATON usage model, BATON takes two inputs. One is the media file and the other is a test plan. The test plan defines the types of checks you want to do on your files. We can do all sorts of checks, including quality checks, regulatory compliance checks, conformance checks, and we can also find encoding errors. In fact, BATON has the most complete and most accurate feature set available in the market today. You can also automate the entire process either by using Smart Folder, or you can use the fully featured APIs. On the output side, we provide the reports in the form of PDF, XML, XLS, and BVR. We also have a very comprehensive alert mechanism like email alerts and TCP UDP messages. In BATON, you can not only do the auto QC, but also a hybrid QC by introducing manual QC activities for your operators. You can do an in-depth visual analysis and manual review using BATON Media Player. BATON Media Player is a client-side application and a very powerful solution for visual debugging. Once the verification is done and you completed the review, BATON can also execute so-called post-QC actions, so you can move the good files to your playout and the bad files to quarantine. And in case you have the BATON content corrector option available, you can also correct certain types of issues like loudness, metadata errors, and certain video related issues. In case you have a large BATON farm or maybe multiple BATON farms spread across the globe, we can collect QC data from your remote sites and also do an in-depth statistical analysis on that data by using our top layer product known as BATON Plus. So on a really high level, this is a basic usage model of BATON. Looking into the product on this slide, I have a couple of examples on video and audio quality checks. We do a very in-depth QC of your media files. But besides the quality checks like video dropout, cadence, audio loudness, audio noise, and many more, we also do standard specific checks to make sure your content is a valid MXF or valid QuickTime, etc. We can also do metadata checks, checks on container. Basically, you name it, almost every single thing is there, whatever is needed in BATON. BATON provides really smart workflow tools. I have briefly mentioned in the beginning about analytics and workflow capability of BATON Plus, also the correction ability of BATON Content Corrector. We have ML-based solutions like audio language identification. But apart from this, we are adding more and more AI ML-based checks and features to BATON and also improving the existing ones. I briefly mentioned about BATON Media Player, which is a very powerful debugging player. Cloud support, you can deploy either on-prem or you can deploy it over cloud like Amazon's AWS or Azure, etc. We also do offer photosensitive epilepsy checks. You can also use BATON for subtitles, closed caption QC, QC of ABR package. The video serving template or VAST is a hot topic today since it is directly connected to monetization. And we also support VAST formals so you can verify your advertisements as well. In order to get you started, we have a really nice library of inbuilt test plans for different delivery standards, including specifications for iTunes, Netflix, Hulu, etc. In terms of integration, BATON is already integrated with all the leading solutions out there on the market. In case you want to integrate it with your own code, you can do so by using the lightweight integration method of smart folders, or you can also use the fully featured APIs. Moving on to our primary topic of discussion today, that is BATON integration with NLE systems. What is NLE? NLE stands for nonlinear editing, also known as non-destructive editing, and is a form of audio, video, or image editing in which the original content is not modified in the course of editing, but instead the edits are specified and modified by a specialized software known as NLE softwares or tool. Most of you must be using BATON or some other QC tool to analyze your media content, and a NLE tool, more specifically an editing software for your editing needs. Now, QCing a file and performing edits on it are two major stages in a file-based workflow. Let's just take a general example of one such workflow. So let's say, suppose you receive one file from your post-production house. You QC it and find some errors being flagged. These errors will then need to be corrected via some NLE tool. In earlier days, there used to be no interaction or a way to communicate between your QC tool and your NLE tool. With BATON's comprehensive verification report mechanism, that task became a bit easier. So how do you edit a file now after it has been QC'd by BATON? Let's try and paint a picture here. You open the media file in your editing tool and switch back to BATON to access the verification report. You take a look at the list of errors and switch back to your NLE interface. Enter the timecode manually, review the error, and probably make some edit. You will have to perform these actions for every error reported, going back and forth between the BATON interface and the NLE UI. And once you are finally done with all the edits, you would either QC the file again for verification or straight away deliver it to play out. Now, doesn't this process of editing still seem a little tedious? We have tried to address some of these problems through our integration with certain NLE tools. Now, how does this integration actually work? A NLE system makes use of a pointer-based playlist, effectively known as an edit decision list or EDL, to keep track of these edits. We QC your media file and then dump an EDL compatible with your version of NLE. This EDL is imported into your editing tool and helps to view a list of errors reported by BATON right inside the NLE interface. We aim to provide a solution through this integration that helps to integrate a QC process with editing so that it is easier to access, view, and edit all the QC errors right inside your NLE interface, and also provide you an option to schedule an edited file for QC from within the NLE. We have integrated with quite a few NLE systems. To name a few, Adobe's Premiere Pro, Avid Media Composer, DaVinci Resolve, Apple's Final Cut Pro as well. So let's take a tour of how these integrations work and look like. Hopefully you can see on your screens, this is the user interface of Adobe's Premiere Pro. I have divided its interface into 4 different sections. The one you see here on the top left is the bin section, which basically houses your media files and sequences built by a user. Below this section is the browser window from where you can browse your media files, fetch information about files, apply effects, and many other functionalities. On the top right here is the Premiere Pro player, which plays the media sequence or file. And below this player, you have a timeline to maneuver through a media sequence, jumping to exact time codes or frames. Now let's take an ingest workflow use case. Say you received a media file from your post-production house or your content provider. You QC the file in BATON, and then you notice that some errors have been flagged. You go to download its PDF report. So this is what a BATON verification PDF report looks like. Under current scenario, you would have to use this PDF report to review the errors. So let's scroll down to view some of the errors. You will notice all the relevant details about the media file and the task which has been QC'd by BATON in this PDF report. So here you have a list of all the errors reported with their synopsis and the timecode at which that error has occurred. What will you do? You will note the timecode from this PDF, go back to the Adobe's Premiere Pro interface, play the file, or I would say drop this file here in the timeline window, enter the time code manually here. So let's say the error that I noted from the PDF was at 6. So I'll do this, and you'll review the error visually and probably fix it if required. This would be repeated for every error. This is very clumsy, right? So now let's take a look at a new scenario where you can use the BATON plugin integrated with Adobe's Premiere Pro. I have a task already run in BATON. So BATON dumped an EDL report, which I'll straight away import it into the Premiere Pro interface. So you see here, this is the original media file and this is its sequence. Selecting the sequence will display a timeline with all the markers which have been reported by BATON. So selecting the sequence will display the timeline with all the errors reported by BATON. All the markers seen here on the timeline are actually individual errors which have been reported by BATON. That's really useful and solves the problem of not switching back to the PDF report to see the individual errors. And if you hover over these markers, you will get a basic synopsis that we were referring to in the PDF report. You can click on any marker to directly jump to that sequence in the media file inside the NLE interface. So no manual input of timecode. That's another problem solved. The corresponding marker will directly take you to that timecode. The color coding that you see here, the color coding that you see here is pretty similar to what we have in BATON. That is an orange color signifying a warning and a red color signifying a fatal or serious error. Now what if you wish to see all the errors reported by BATON? We have a solution for that right here under the markers window. You access the markers window and here's the magic. Each and every error has been listed down here that has been actually reported by BATON. You can simply click on any error to directly jump to that timecode in the sequence. Also, if you double click on any error, you will get a detailed information about that error, like what was the reporting criteria of that error, at what time code did that error was caught by BATON. And on top of this, you can add your own comments to this marker, like say comment added, so that if someone else reviews this file later on, they can see your comments. And also you can change the marker color from down here to anything that you like. Using the markers, using the color filter here, markers can be filtered and viewed according to their colors. So overall, this makes your task way easier than it was before. You can start reviewing the errors one by one from this marker list, visually see and decide if it needs to be ignored or corrected. For example, let's start a manual review right from the top. So I see this error and I see the synopsis and I would think that I would decide that this is not a valid error for my case. So I will simply choose to delete this marker. So this marker is directly removed from the timeline. Moving on to the next error. So I would say this is also not valid and I would like to ignore this error. So I will go on to the detailed one. I will add a comment here. Say ignore error and I would change its color to say white. So I'll keep white for all the ignored errors. And I will simply click OK. So you can see the marker color has changed to white and you have the comment right here. Now what if you want to see the errors and do some edits? For example, I have a black frame sequence detected at this time code with duration this much. So let me just go, this is a valid error reported by BATON and I want to correct it. So I would go on the timeline by simply clicking on it and I can see the marker has been set here. So I will do a quick edit to just remove this error. So it's a sequence of black frames. I will just simply delete some sequences of frames to manually correct this error. So you can see from the timeline window that the video part has no thumbnail in it and the audio tracks are almost silent. So I'll set a marking tab here and I can drag all the way to say this part and I will mark out the area from here. I will select the area and simply delete this and bring back the timelines. Okay, so the error was manually fixed and I will go into the detail of this marker. I will add a comment here that this error is fixed and I will change its color to green, signifying that the error was manually fixed. And I will simply click OK and you see the marker color has changed to green. So using this method, you will review all the errors that have been listed down in this window. And then when you are done reviewing all the errors, you can use the color filters at the top here to see what all errors were ignored or fixed. For example, I'll just select the green filter. So it will list down all the errors which were actually fixed by me, and it is a valid error reported by BATON. Or maybe if you want to see all the errors that were ignored, you can select the white color or any color of your choice. Now suppose all the edits have been performed and you wish to QC the file again to verify these edits. You will have to switch to BATON UI and submit the edited version for QC. But what if that too can also be handled from the Premiere Pro interface itself? Absolutely. Now once you are done editing the file and wish to perform the QC on it again, we have provided a BATON NLE workflow panel right here inside the bin section. You can submit your edited file directly from here without having to move to BATON UI separately. When you click this submit button here, Premiere Pro renders the sequence resting on its timeline, and finally the rendered version is submitted to BATON for QC. So let's see here. I will click the submit button. It will open up a Adobe's media encoder, which is actually responsible for rendering the file. And it will start rendering in a moment. Now, once the rendering has been finished, this file will be submitted to BATON for QC. Coming back to the BATON NLE workflow panel, the list of files that you see here are actually all the EDLs created by BATON. So instead of browsing through your file directories, you can simply import an EDL directly from this panel by double-clicking the EDL file name. Also, if you wish to perform partial QC on your edited content, you can tick mark this checkbox right here based on your test plan settings in BATON. And using those test plan settings, the rendered file will be submitted for a partial QC to BATON. It's amazing, right? So now, what if you want to see that the rendered file actually got submitted to BATON? You can always switch to BATON UI, but we have also provided an extension window for BATON UI itself here inside the Premiere Pro. Yes, that's right. For example, you do not wish to switch between UIs of BATON and Premiere Pro going back and forth again and again. You can access the BATON UI directly from here. You just need to log in using your own credentials, and this will take you right to the BATON interface. So you have a mini version of BATON right inside your Adobe's interface. So you can use the BATON just like you would use in a normal scenario, but this is the difference from right here within the Premiere Pro interface. So this was all about our integration with Adobe's Premiere Pro. So you see how easy it is for you now to review the errors reported by Baton, perform the edits accordingly, and even submit the edited file for QC again, all under one hood. That's the beauty of this integration. And this is not the only NLE we have integrated with. I also have DaVinci open. So I'll open up the interface of DaVinci. DaVinci Resolve is an NLE which is designed and developed by Blackmagic Design. So this is the user interface of DaVinci Resolve. Its UI has been divided into specific dashlets similar to the one we just saw in Adobe Premiere Pro. Let me import one of the EDLs dumped by Baton. So I'll go to the file section. I'll import one of the EDLs. Let's say I'll use this one. Select the pre-configured settings, and you see the EDL has been loaded right inside your NLE. Integration works in a similar fashion here. You can view the timeline with all the errors reported by Baton here. These are all the markers similar to the one we saw in Premiere Pro. When you hover over these markers, you will actually get a synopsis of the error which we previously saw in the Baton PDF report. You can also see a list of all such markers. You simply go to this window right next to the Resolve player and select markers, and you get a list of all markers, or basically the individual errors which have been reported by Baton. You can select any of the marker to directly jump to that sequence in your media file and perform any edit if required. Finally, when all the edits are done, you can submit the edited version to Baton for QC verification. And once it passes the QC test, you can send the file to your playout server. So this was a very brief overview of how the integration works with DaVinci Resolve. Moving on, let me show you through a snapshot how this integration works with Avid Media Composer. Its UI is pretty similar to Adobe Premiere Pro's. So we have a bin section here on the top right, a marker window in the middle section, which is similar to the one we saw in Premiere Pro and DaVinci. Right next to it is the Avid Media Player and the timeline window here on the bottom. Now Baton has the ability to create an EDL which is easily imported into the Media Composer timeline to view all the details and errors reported for the concerned media file. We make use of Avid's feature set to display a list of markers on the timeline, which makes it extremely useful to review and edit content on the same screen. The integration works in a similar sort of fashion. You import an EDL given out by Baton, you select the sequence, and get a list of markers or errors on the Avid timeline. So from the snapshot, you can see on the right side, there is a timeline and you have pink colored buttons on that timeline. So these pink colored buttons are nothing but the individual errors reported by Baton. And like we saw previously in other NLEs, if you hover over these markers, you will get a similar synopsis that we saw in the Baton PDF report. And once you finish editing the file, you can submit the edited version to Baton for QC verification. On a very light note, this is how Baton integrates with Avid Media Composer. We have already taken a look at our integration with DaVinci Resolve. I also want to mention here on similar lines, we integrate with Apple's Final Cut Pro as well. So if you are working with Final Cut Pro and wish to set up an integrated QC and editing environment alongside BATON, you can do so through our BATON NLE integration. To summarize, how are these integrations useful to you? First, BATON file-based QC solution integration with various NLE tools provide an automated solution to ensure content quality at multiple stages of content production and editing workflows. The integration focuses on content readiness and brings efficiency and timeliness in the content supply chain. It ensures seamless integration. So it can integrate at any stage of the editing workflow to identify your editing issues. It generates EDLs for flawless integration to display BATON errors at exact time codes. It is extremely useful for editors because with this integration, you now control the reviewing and editing process under one single hood. Last but not the least, this integration is all the more helpful now during these times of work from home, since it ensures cloud editing workflows and remote editing workflows work collaboratively with your QC process. So that's all from our side on BATON integration with NLE Systems. Hope you liked it. I would like to thank all of you for taking out the time to attend this webinar and providing us the opportunity to showcase these integrations. Thank you.